Well, hey y'all, and welcome back to my kitchen, or welcome if you are new. My name is Bethany, or Budget Bethany, and welcome to this week's What's for Dinner video. So I like to share these every single week in hopes to give y'all some meal ideas to cook at home for your family as well. This week I will sound a little bit crazy because I've been a little bit under the weather, but I know you all understand. But let's get on into this week's What's for Dinner, y'all. Alright y'all, so for the first dinner that I'm going to be sharing with y'all this week, it's going to be a seafood bowl and a seafood toast, I guess you would call it. Anyway, I tried it at a local Chinese restaurant and I wanted to recreate it and give it a try for myself, so that's what I did. And up first, I'm just going to be making the seafood bowl. So all I did was get me a pot full of water, wash and dice up some potatoes, throw those in there, and I'm going to cook those until they're almost done. You don't want them to be completely done because you still have to do some more boiling. And then this is all the seasonings that I'm going to be throwing in there, as well as some lemon juice. And then I just tossed in some minced garlic. Of course, y'all can add whatever you want into your seafood bowl, and then I'm going to start adding in all of my seasonings.
Right now I'm standing in the corner. I see you from across the room. It's kinda crowded here, but I know you see me too. Everybody's singing, oh, everybody's singing, oh.
While my taters are boiling, I'm going to start cutting up my sausages, and then I'm going to throw those in the pot as well.
It must be in the way you move. Just say you want me to. We've got nothing to lose. You're looking so old. You're looking so old. Now I'm moving closer to you, and it's getting dark in this room. Tell me what you wanna do. Baby, let me love you, let me love you. Let me love you, let me love you. Baby, let me love you, let me love you. Let me love, baby, let me love you.
Right after I went in with all the sausages, I also dumped in my corn on the cob.
Leave this place. I'll take you anywhere you want, as long as we're together.
Lastly, I'm going to go in with my shrimp, and it does not take shrimp very long to cook, so that's why I add it last. It basically, takes just like a few minutes. Once it turns pink, it's good to go. It's time to eat. And then I also cut up in some lime pieces, like I just cut a lime up and throw that in there as well. That was my husband's idea, so I throw that in there. It didn't really change the flavor any. It just kind of gives it a little pop of color.
Let me love you. Let me love, let me love. Baby, let me love you, let me love you. Let me love you, let me love you. Baby, let me love you, let me love you. Let me love, baby, let me love you.
And then, as you can see, he's adding in some butter. Alright, so now we're going to get into making the seafood toast, or the crab toast, because it just has imitation crab on it, so I don't guess you would call it the seafood because it doesn't have all kinds of seafood on it, just crab. So you'll need some imitation crab, and I got the flake style. You'll need some shredded cheddar cheese, you'll need some cream cheese, you'll need some mayonnaise, some garlic powder, and some tiger sauce or some hot sauce, whichever you prefer or whatever you can find. And you'll also need a loaf of this white bread that you can find at the Walmart Deli Bakery. To start with, I'm just going to start by cutting up my imitation crab, and I'm going to be cutting it into like middle-sized dices. You don't want them too small and you don't want them too big, but you want to be able to taste them whenever you take a bite of your toast.
'Cause honestly, don't wanna be stuck in boring conversations with you. With you. I'm gonna leave it all behind. Find myself, I'm gonna start over new. Yeah, I'm on my way now.
As you get all your crab diced up, you'll just throw in your block of cream cheese, and then you'll go in with your shredded cheddar cheese. And you could also use like mild shredded cheddar cheese. It doesn't have to be the sharp. That's just what I chose. Then I went in with a little bit of garlic powder, and y'all, I don't know exact measurements, but I will try to type out the exact measurements in the description box, just because I was just going with whatever I felt like looked good. And then I went in with a little bit of mayonnaise, and I did use a big spoon, and then I used probably like a tablespoon. I went in with just a drop of that tiger sauce, and then I cut my loaf of bread up, and then I rubbed some of that parquet butter on each side of it, and then I just started piling on my crab mixture. Once I had all of my crab mixture evenly spread out on top of my bread, I did sprinkle on some Old Bay seasoning. I feel like that is the secret. You definitely want to sprinkle some of that on there, but you don't want to go too crazy because it can get a little bit spicy. And then I just popped that in my 350-degree preheated oven for about 10 minutes. And here's how it looked once it came out of the oven. And then I just cut it up into little sections. That way it could easily fit on the plate with our bowl. And this was dinner for this night. Up next, we're going to be making a queso chicken and rice bowl. So you can get this at pretty much any Mexican restaurant, and this is actually my favorite thing to order at a Mexican restaurant. But to start with, all you have to do is dice up some chicken breast, some chicken tenderloins. It doesn't really matter as long as it's a white chicken meat. I'm going to throw in about 2 tablespoons of butter into my skillet and let that melt down, and then I'm going to throw my chicken in there, and we're going to get to seasoning up our chicken, of course. Yes, I almost forgot that I also added in this pepper and onion blend that you can get at Walmart in the frozen section, or you could just cut up some fresh ones and add that in there if that's what you prefer. But I just throw that in there with my chicken. I'm going to let that cook up, and now we're going to get to adding in our seasonings. As always, it is your kitchen and you can use whatever kind of seasonings that you prefer, but I'm going to be using some tahini seasoning, some chili and lime powder, some garlic powder, some chicken-lica bam bam, and just a little bit of that taco seasoning from that taco packet. And like y'all can see, I sprinkled a generous amount in there, and then I'm just going to give that a good stir and make sure everything gets good and coated.
Love the way you make me feel good. Love the way you say my name. And how I wanna build my whole world with you and no one else. And now our love will make us so much better. There will be no more lonely nights. Baby, if you let me try, I'll give you what you want. Here comes the down times when you go blind. You say that I'm just wasting my time. You say you're too hard to handle and full of doubts. Say that I should give you up for someone better. But no, she's a roller coaster. Oh, she's a flame.
Once my chicken is good and cooked through, I'm going to remove it from the skillet and just place that on a plate and kind of set that to the side. And then we're going to start making our rice.
She can't be tamed. I'm so in love with her. I fall and try again. Get up and try again.
So you don't have to rinse your pan out or anything like that. Leave all those flavors in the bottom of that skillet, and you're going to add in about 2 tablespoons of butter, and then I just added in a cup of white rice, and you just kind of want this to toast up a little bit. Once it starts turning brown, you know, you can turn the heat down, and then you're going to add in about a cup of chicken broth.
I ain't giving you up, no. Love the way we are together. Like, can't we always stay this way? And how I wanna build my whole world with you and no one else. And how our love will make us so much better.
After I added in my chicken broth, I kind of let that simmer for about 2 minutes, and then I'm going in with just a little bit of salsa, and then I'm also going to go in with some diced tomatoes. You could do just one or the other. You don't have to do both, but I like it with both, so that's what I'm going to be doing. And then I'm going to sprinkle in just a little bit of this taco seasoning, just like I used in my chicken.
Too hard to handle and full of She's a roller.
Then you're just going to give that a good stir and kind of let this simmer on low until your rice is done, or for about 20 minutes. Alright y'all, so to make my quote-unquote queso cheese, I don't know if this is like authentic or anything, but I'm going to use some American white cheese slices, some queso quesadilla cheese, and some pepperjack cheese. So I'm just throwing all those cheeses into my pan, and I'm also going to add in just a little bit of heavy whipping cream. That just kind of helps loosen up the cheese as it's melting so that you can easily stir it, and it makes it look extra creamy, as you can see right here. So all I do is plate up my plate with some rice first, and then I go in with some chicken, and then I top it with some of this cheese. You could also add some salsa or some sour cream, some lettuce, tomatoes, you know, whatever you like, but I like mine pretty basic and plain. And here it was once it was all plated up. It's so delicious, y'all. You'll have to give this recipe a try. Up next, we're going to be making a big old loaded bacon cheeseburger. So as you can see, it's definitely loaded. So all I did in my bowl is I added 1 pound of ground beef, and I added in 1 egg, some garlic powder, some onion powder, and some of this famous Dave's steak and burger seasoning. I added in some of the real bacon bits, like real bacon pieces, and then I also added in some Worcestershire sauce and some ketchup. Then I just used my good old hands that God gave me, and I mixed that up really generously and pat it out into hamburger patties. Alright, so once I had all of my hamburger patties patted out, it was time to get them cooking, and to cook them, I'm just adding some bacon grease into my skillet. I know some of y'all even say that even though you're not from the South, you still keep your bacon grease. So if you're not keeping your bacon grease, you need to, because there's so much flavor in there, especially when you want to make these bacon cheeseburgers, because that bacon grease added so much flavor to these burgers. So I might catch a lot of hate about telling y'all to keep your bacon grease, but keep your bacon grease. It's fine, girl. And so all I did was heat that bacon grease up in my skillet, and I added in my hamburger patties, and I just kind of let those fry up on both sides until it's no longer pink. And then while they were cooking, I toasted up some bread. It's just regular old white bread, so we're not going to be using like our traditional hamburger buns like we normally would. We're going to use regular old white bread, and I'm just adding that into my air fryer, and I'm spraying on some vegetable oil. You could also use like a butter spray, but I didn't have any, so I compromised with what I had. Then I'm just going to cook this on 390 degrees for about 3 minutes. You want to keep a check on it because it does not take long at all to toast some bread in the air fryer. After about 2 minutes on one side, I do flip mine over and cook it for about 2 more minutes on the other side, just to make sure my toast was good and toasty, because that's how I wanted mine. But of course you could cook yours for less, or you know, however you want it. It's your kitchen. So once my burgers were done, I topped them with some shredded cheddar cheese, and then just kind of let that sit in the pan and let that cheese melt. And then I started assembling my burgers. So I've got some lettuce, tomato, some mayonnaise, ketchup, and mustard on mine. So we just served our burger with tater chips, but you could also serve them with French fries or some tater tots, you know, whatever your heart desires. But these things were so good, y'all, and look how thick it is. It was really good. I couldn't eat but half of mine because I just really wasn't hungry on that night, and this thing was so super big. But y'all, that's it for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye, y'all.